This is somewhat traditional Finnish flatbread with some potato mixed into the dough. Apparently, there are as many different flatbread recipes in Finland as there are cities, but this is the best way I have found to make it. It requires no yeast or long fermentation, so it can be made in less than 1 hour, even if you didn't have mashed potatoes or any leftovers from previous days. It all starts with mashed potatoes. If you don't have any, just simply peel some potatoes, or you can even leave the skins on if you'd like, but I prefer mine peeled. I'm going to cut the larger ones into smaller pieces so they will probably boil quicker, and add some salt and pre-boiled water to further speed up the process. When the potatoes are softened enough so they can without much effort be peeled by a fork or a toothpick, they are ready to drain. Next, I'm going to take my famous potato destroyer and just break the potatoes up a bit before adding in some salt, onion powder, and finally adding in some milk. This was maybe a deciliter of milk or something like that. I will leave the recipe and estimate measurements in the description below. I don't usually measure anything when I make these, but it is a good idea to taste the potato mash whether it has enough salt in it. The potato mash can be a little bit too salty by now, since we are going to add flour into this mixture, the salt level will even out. Then I'm going to take another bowl to mix the dough in. I'm going to be using my regular pizza/bread flour as well as some whole wheat flour. I start by adding around the equal amount of flour as there is potato mash by volume, topping things off with maybe 20% of whole wheat flour, which is optional. So now this is around 50% potato mash and 50% of flour by volume, and just mix everything together. The potato mash was still pretty hot, but the colder flour quickly lowered the temperature enough so it didn't burn my hand. After everything is mixed, I leave this to form and set my oven to preheat to the highest it can go, in this case 300 degrees Celsius or 570 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to think that by giving the dough some time to form at this point, instead of throwing it straight into the oven, the flour has more time to hydrate at the molecular level. I don't know if there is any truth or scientific evidence to back that belief, but that is what I do, and I think it results in a better bread at the end. When the oven is ready and hot, it's time to shape the flatbreads, or flatbread. There are two main ways. The first one is to roll each one of these into round ball and just press them down, and I think that is more traditional way of doing this. However, I like to make things as easily as possible, so I just throw the entire dough into a baking sheet and press it down, making one big flatbread. The thickness can be between 0.5 cm to 1 cm. I would not want to go too thick to avoid the middle from being raw or uncooked. When it's completely flat and even, I'm going to use my pizza cutter to make squares to it. This will be easier to eat than one large flatbread, and it also looks nice. The last step before the oven is to press some holes into the dough with a fork. This is to avoid any large air bubbles from forming and burning, and it also looks quite nice. And here it is, ready to go into the smoking hot oven for around 10 to 15 minutes, depending on when it looks ready. It depends a lot on your oven and possibly the hydration of the dough as well on how long this will take. I kept mine in the oven for around 13 minutes and that was perfect for my taste. When it finally comes out of the oven, it is a good idea to let it cool down for like 15 more minutes so it will continue cooking from the inside and you will not burn your mouth. And finally, top things off with some butter and enjoy. This is a great one to make even if you are in a rush. This is really low effort and it sure tastes amazing. Yesterday when I made the test run for this, I also added some carrots with the potatoes and it worked out great. So if you feel brave and want to do some additional experimenting, you can try adding some other vegetables into the dough as well. Just make sure they are all soft enough so they can be formed into a smooth dough. But yeah, thanks for watching, like and subscribe if you got some value from this video. Goodbye.